We love getting your questions, so we want you to keep them coming via Facebook, Twitter, and on our webpage. Who knows, we might just answer your question here in the studio audience next.
Welcome back, everybody. Jewel is with us today, and our next guest, Kat, has been plagued by debilitating panic attacks. And they got bad today, and so what we've done to create safety here is we've asked the audience to leave so that we can create some safe base to work with Kat. So welcome, Kat.
Welcome. Hi, how are you doing?
So what's going on?
Well, as you guys just witnessed, I have a very hard time with a lot of times with a lot of crowds and just people, and if I start off with a bad day, it just spirals out of control to where my body physically shuts down. I can't breathe, and I just feel very overwhelmed with everything. So,
Well, let me say this first off: is this is a safe space to be. I know this has got to be hard because you got the lights and the camera,
Yes.
and you're dealing with a real issue with a lot of people deal with back home. And so I don't want you to feel alone right now in this space. And I appreciate you asking for what you need, because we're really not, at the end of the day, we're not here for all this. We're here for you in this moment right now.
okay, well, I appreciate that. It's made it a little bit easier. It's hard enough just trying to talk about it because it's something that you hide for so long. But it has gotten to the point where I almost have to talk about it because I can't keep living in shadows either. So.
Describe what they're like.
They tend to vary. Most recently, if something gets too stressing or I feel like I'm being overwhelmed, is getting to the point where I feel dizzy and like I'm going to faint, and kind of like the world's tilting and everything else. I mean, it's so hard to describe because there's no other feeling like that. I mean, it literally feels like you're on some weird roller coaster and it's just going to flip you off any second. So that's what I've been feeling lately. So.
Yeah, I can kind of see that you're not breathing real well right now.
No, no, I'm not.
So just feel yourself in your chair.
Okay. I got it. Okay, I can do this.
Sit down, you got your feet on the ground.
Yes.
When did you have your first panic attack?
I had my first panic attack when my son was about 7 or 8, and that kind of freaked me out. I had never experienced anything like that. My son was diagnosed with ADHD, and I was going to pick up his medicine, and his insurance got shut off. And at the time, I did not have the cash on me, so I did not know what to do. And I knew that he was going to have a lot of issues at school if I did not pick up those meds.
And I've been there. I can relate. You know, there was a period in my life when you talk about all the things that you have going on, and that's a lot of pressure.
Yes.
And so it took me back several years ago. I experienced panic attacks for a short amount of time, and I was under a tremendous amount of pressure. Wasn't expecting it because I never knew even what a panic attack was. And then all of a sudden, I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
You know, you can't breathe, you get lightheaded, the gasping for air, and all of a sudden it feels like the room is closing down on you.
I can really relate. When a lot of people know I moved out when I was 15 and I went away to school. I was putting myself through school and at 16, and I would feel panic attacks come on, and at first I didn't know what they were. It felt like I was dying. And then I got to where I could feel them coming on, and I would get out of class and I would go to my room and I would rock in bed, and I was in the fetal position, and I would start having to pet myself and rock back and forth and just shake and shake, completely paralyzed. I've also passed out actually from having panic attacks. I can tell it's going to happen when my nail beds go white and I start getting really dizzy, and it's very, very frightening.
It is, and I've done that too.
Yeah.
It drives my daughter nuts because I will sit there and just like rock myself to sleep, you know.
Let's talk about your daughter
Yeah.
for a minute, because it feels like a lot of this is tied to the children.
Yes. My son went to live with his dad when he was 13. Toughest decision I ever had to make. Actually, I cried for 3 months after I had to make that decision.
Did you raise your kids alone?
Yes, I did. I raised my children alone for 13 years. My daughter is 22 now. My son's 18.
Help us tie this back, because I want to trace it back to when kind of this thing started. So how is this tied to your current condition?
I was always, when you're a single mom and you're trying to do what's best for your kids, I think that, you know, my kids' friends used to laugh. They'd come in the house, everything was color coordinated. The towels, the toothbrushes, the schedules on the calendar, because I was working full time, I was in school full time, and I was still active in my kids' activities. They never really had a sitter in their life outside of my parents. I did not allow them to have a babysitter because, you know, you can't trust everybody anymore. And so, you know, the den mother, all that, everybody used to hang out at our house. So I literally had to have that control, or else my life would have been just chaotic. I didn't want my kids to be one of those latchkey kids or anything else. You know, I was doing what I thought was best for my kids. And as my daughter went on to do dance competitions and everything else, everything had to be organized. I mean, like everything was labeled and costumes had to be a certain way, so that way everything would go smoothly. Well, when I moved away from all of that and things started falling apart, like with my son going off to live with his dad, and then we moved out here, you know, it seemed like those little bits of control were being pulled away from me to some extent. I realized I was still in control, but yet it was like, wait a minute, now I've got my son missing. Okay, wait a minute, where's that piece of my life? You know, it just felt like little things were dropping off.
Okay.
And just trying to regain the control.
Let's stop right here because I want to make sure that we're able to paint a complete picture. Okay. And I want to hear a little bit more about what it is that you're talking about, as well as I think we should talk about what it's costing you, what you're missing out on, and then what we can do to help you get it back on track, okay? So we've got to take a break right now, but when we come back, Kat's daughter Megan is here, and she's going to tell us what life with mom is really like. We'll be right back with more after this. We love getting your questions, so we want you to keep them coming via Facebook, Twitter, and on our webpage. Who knows, we might just answer your question here in the studio audience next.